Oh my gosh, Anita.
Hello, I'm Willie Bragg. Welcome to another edition of the Willie Bragg Show. And I hope each and every one of you doing well today. Getting my set just right there. Ha ha ha. There we go. That's just going to be as good as we can get it. Let's see. Let me do this here. That's a little bit better. So anyway, I wanted to go and share some positive news because politics is mighty grim and there's a lot, there's a lot that goes on. You got right-wing crazies doing their usual right-wing things, and you got you just got a whole lot of stuff that just goes on in this country that needs to be taken care of. Healthcare, military industrial complex doing what they do, influencing our politicians. We got a climate crisis. We have intolerance and resurgence of the Christian right. I mean, it feels like we're back in the 1980s with nuclear war being rearing its ugly head again between Russia and the United States. So, amidst all of that, let's try to talk about some good news. And it's local, kind of. It's in the kind of the opposite end of the state. I live in central North Carolina, just outside of Raleigh, but it's in the central part of it's in the western part of the state. And it's something that I take delight in knowing that's happened here. And what I'm talking about is Starbucks coffee being unionized. It's kind of been happening around the country for a while. And to see it happening here in North Carolina, which is not very union friendly, is quite awesome, to tell you the truth. And here, Spectrum News 1, apparently this is from the Charlotte area. They talk about this here. Let me get this ready for y'all. There we go. And there we go. Yes. So basically, let me find that right there. Boone Starbucks is first in North Carolina to unionize by Rose Ichlor in Boone, published 1:33 p.m. June 3rd, 2022. I mean, it's a little bit on the old news side, but I wanted to share some good news with you all. This is from around the country. People can know about this. Boone, North Carolina, Grace Marvel has been barista at Starbucks since high school. She's now works at the Starbucks in Boone while attending Appalachian State University. I really like talking to people. It's enjoyable to talk to complete strangers and have the opportunity to make their day, Marvel said. Marvel, a biology major, says after Starbucks workers formed a union in Buffalo, New York, she began to watch the cost. For me personally, Starbucks is already physically intensive, but I also work in the garden center, which is manual labor and also physically intensive. So my body hurts all the time, Marvel said. Marvel and others in Boone location worked to unionize, joining Starbucks Workers United, a group that is helping stores with the process. They got a lawyer and sent a petition to the National Labor Relations Board. We were like, we can make it better place, Marvel said. A Starbucks spokesperson said, we've been clear in our belief that we are better together as partners without a union between us, and that conviction has not changed. Let me insert that. Bullshit. Anyway, Starbucks says it will continue to listen and learn from the partners in stores across the country. No. They need a damn union. They need a union. Just, every place needs a union. If anybody asks me where I work, I will not mention where I work because it's not unionized. It's not really that bad of a place, but the companies in the South, when they find out you're union friendly, don't take too kindly to people who like unions. And even if you express a positive opinion, you're not actively trying to form a union in a company, they will try to make life hell on you. I like to see conservatives talk about that as a free speech issue. They're the ones that wants to sit there and act like the right wing want to act like that the left's silence everybody. Where are they when it comes to unionizing or even having a casual conversation on your own time about unions at a workplace? And somebody gets harassed because they're pro-union at a workplace. I guess censorship is gee willikers, it's okay at that point. So there you have it. But anyway, it's optimistic seeing that the unions are starting to grow in the service sector because both parties, Democrats, Republicans alike, have been on this free trade at any cost scenario for the last 40 years. I mean, it's just been by design. Bill Clinton was enthusiastically for NAFTA, and there's no question about it. But it was Ronald Reagan and George Herbert Walker's Bush wet dream too. And never forget that. They were not protectionists, far from it. And remember, Bill Clinton got pretty much a solid Republican support in Congress for NAFTA. And even the Democrats who are not that great as an opposition were actually pretty good in 1993 about voting against NAFTA, but there was just enough turncoats that voted with the Republicans that made NAFTA go through. Never ever forget that. But both parties stink on that issue and all other issues too. I'm just wanting to make that clarification. When you hear the right wing try to turn it all around and act like they're for the workers, I will believe the right wing when they start to say they support a union in a workplace. As soon as they are passionate about supporting unions, I can believe them. But if they support right to work laws, if they oppose minimum wage increases, if they are actively favoring corporate power over the average worker, don't feed me that baloney ever about favoring the average worker, favoring the little guy, because they don't. Democrats sometimes talk a good game about it, but neither do they when it comes right down to it. Maybe a handful of Democrats are okay on union issues, but you know what? During the days of segregation, after segregation, which is really funny because when the Democrats were in control of the South all these years, when they were having segregation, it's funny that the Republicans always link Democrats with segregation in the South, but they also failed to mention that those Jim Crow Democrats adopted right to work laws in those states, something that those same Republicans are not willing to get rid of. So, don't ever believe the hype from these Republicans in that regard. But these Democrats, even when they decided that racial equality was a good thing, whether they meant it or not, they really didn't do anything about overturning or getting rid of these right to work laws. And the decline of the unions in this country has been so detrimental in all respects. I mean, even with regard to the African American community, with regard to civil rights, as racial equality started to become a reality with the Civil Rights Act of 1964, Civil Rights Act of 1965, and some of the other various civil rights legislation, where there was some symbolic gestures to make it look like that their racial equality has taken place. And is it better today in the year 2022 for the average African American than, let's say, in the year 1952 in the South? I'll be lying if I say no, because we've had a black president. I mean, that would have never have happened in the 1950s. But without trying to get into identity politics, when deindustrialization started to take place, largely in the late 70s, and went on speed and on overdrive during the Reagan era, which is why I wonder why the hell Reagan got elected and reelected and was so fucking popular, because deindustrialization destroyed the unions in this country. And so a lot of the places like your Pennsylvanias, your Ohios, your Indianas, your Illinois, your Michigans, New York, places like that, they lost a lot of industry, and people blame the unions for everything. But the thing is that when those unions left, it created a lot of hardship for people. So any problems that started to take place within the African American community as civil rights became a thing, the right will blame the so-called welfare state and the Great Society for doing this sort of thing, as if working actively against blacks prior to civil rights made life better. It didn't. What made life better for African Americans prior to desegregation, in spite of segregation was going on, were union jobs when unions were strong. And getting rid of the unions also made life tough for many African American working families. Made life tough for white families, working families too. So I get tired of that argument, as if, racial equality, the Great Society and the civil rights legislation actively made life terrible for the African Americans, as if segregation and putting always a barrier and working actively to discriminate against African Americans were making their lives improved. Bullshit. What the ass backwards logic of the right in this country sometimes just infuriates me, and people are allowed to get away with these talking points. And people need to address these talking points. I hate to make it about left and right, but I have to sometimes, because getting rid of the unions was a right-wing wet dream. We are less in the private sector. We are less than 6% of the workforce. And then I hear people say, well, you need just to get rid of those public sector unions. For fucking what? To gut the labor union even further in half? I'm pontificating again. Service sector unions is kind of where it's going to be, since we have a situation where a lot of the industrial manufacturing base have been depleted. And it's not just unionized it's not just the unionized factories. Non-unionized factories and operations have been going overseas too. And here's the thing. Some of these companies have been leaving the north to get away from those pesky unions to come down to the south. Well, let me tell you about that. When they realized that paying $30 an hour in Michigan, when you could just pay them $12 an hour or $8 an hour in some place in the South, and paying them $8 an hour or $10 an hour or $12 an hour was too extravagant. You can pay somebody $3 a day in some third world country. What do these companies do? They go and send the companies to these places to pay people $3 a day, if even that. My solution is that, honestly, there should be legislation. American companies, you send a company overseas to go and try to lay off workers. U.S. government, take your company, nationalize it. No company should have a right to move their operations outside the United States to get rid of what they perceive as overpaid workers. If they go out of business, they had no right being a business to begin with. So that's where I stand with that, and I make no apologies for it. Companies should either stay here in this country, or they should have their companies seized by the state and nationalized by the U.S. government to protect the workers. I make no apologies for that. It is time for drastic militant actions against the crony capitalists that have harmed workers. And that people need to realize it isn't the immigrants crossing the borders. And the immigration dilemma is not a problem. The dilemma is from American foreign policy of basically the United States fucking with countries in Latin America. It's partly that. United States getting involved in Middle Eastern conflicts, perpetuating constant warfare over there. Is all of this foreign policy crap that's causing a lot of the problems we have in this country. We don't address these things, that's going to continue. So there is that. So we need to go. It's capitalism, folks. It's capitalism that's doing this to us. It's capitalism. And we need to go and challenge them. And the best way to do this, a big panacea would be the unions. We need to revitalize our unions in this country. We revitalize it. What the hell has Joe Biden done? He promised to labor law reform. But Barack Obama promised us their Employee Free Choice Act. Once he got elected, he done nothing to bring it into being. Joe Biden campaigned on the PRO Act, the Protect the Right to Organize Act. And then once he's in, nothing. And the right wing sits there and call him a socialist who's listening too much to Bernie Sanders. When in reality, Joe Biden governs more like Mitch McConnell. Honestly. And people believe the right wing lies. And it makes me mad. Anyway, if you like what you heard, press like and comment. If you disagree with what I have to say, comment anyway. We will have a conversation. Feel free to share the content on this channel. As the First Amendment as absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it, because we are, in fact, the muckrakers of our time. Hit that notification bell. Hit that subscribe button. Actually, hit the subscribe button. Hit that notification bell so you keep up to date with my commentaries. And remember, we need to reject corporate media because they got nothing whatsoever to offer. Nothing of any value. And until next time, I want to wish y'all a great day, and we will talk again soon. Take care.